Hey guys, how you doing? Ron Raymond here with another edition of the Ron Raymond CFL Report for week number 11. Hope you're having yourself a good start to your day. As always, don't forget to subscribe to our channel by tapping that notification bell in the top right hand corner, or hit the subscribe button below this video if you are using a mobile device. You can now find the CFL Report each and every day on your favorite podcast device. Either it's the Apple, Spotify, wherever you download your podcast. You can find the Ron Raymond CFL Report each and every week, everywhere where you download your podcast, or you can find us right here on our YouTube channel. And also on our YouTube channel, you get the visual effect. So if you're watching or listening on a podcast, if you go to YouTube, you can see we have the screen behind me, and we have all the visual effects to complement this week's podcast. All right, as you all know, my name is Ron Raymond, a 5-time sports handicapping champion. I'm based out of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. It's a beautiful sunny day here today in the nation's capital, 27 degrees. Hopefully it's beautiful and sunny where you're at. I know we had some pretty good football games last week in the Canadian Football League. In fact, let's take a look at some of the games from last week. And if you followed my selections here on the podcast, you went 4-0, so congratulations. Hopefully you're not spending all that money in one place. And big upset win in Winnipeg last week. The Montreal Alouettes went into Winnipeg, and they beat the Blue Bombers. 2017 was the final. And as you can see here on the screen, the CFL Raymond Report is having a pretty good year. In fact, we're hitting 71% of our pick'em games straight up. That's the computer picks here at the Raymond Report. 28-11 on the record on the season. And for the point spread, not a great record. 21-18, still positive. But the over-under is absolutely crushing it. 34-5 on the totals. 87.1%. And folks, you can get the computer picks each and every day at atsstats.com. Toronto taking on the Hamilton Tiger Cats last week at Tim Hortons Field. A nice win for the Tiger Cats. 34-27 was the final. Saskatchewan had the best out of Edmonton. 34-23 was the final there. And the game of the week was at McMahon Stadium. You had the BC Lions come from behind to beat the Calgary Stampeders 41-40. And Nathan Rourke just absolutely having a really good sophomore year in the CFL. And we are watching him closely this week as they will be playing. This week they were going to, I believe it's Saskatchewan. I believe they're playing the Saskatchewan, BC in Saskatchewan at Mosaic. Should be a good one this week in the Prairies. All right, let's get on with the show here. But before we do, don't forget, you can always follow us on our Discord. If you look below in the description, there's a link to our Discord, and that's where all the Breakfast Club members are there, and they're listening. If you're wondering what's the Breakfast Club, I thought this was a CFL podcast. Well, each morning at 10:30 Eastern, I run a podcast, a sports betting podcast, Monday to Friday, 10:30 Eastern with the Breakfast Club, and you can follow us each and every morning, also on the YouTube channel or wherever you download your favorite podcast. And the show objective, as always, is to make sure to help and educate the novice sports bettors, even the older ones. You can always teach a new dog an old trick, or an old dog a new trick. I know that saying goes like that. It's somewhere in that saying, right? But yeah, you can always learn something here each and every day with the CFL Report. And the thing is, you want to avoid those beginner mistakes, right? You don't want to take, and you know, when you got a guy like me who's been doing this for 26 years, and it's not my first barbecue or my first rodeo, hopefully my past mistakes, and I bring up those mistakes here that I've learned from, and I can teach you some of the tricks of the trade, as they say, in sports handicapping, and hopefully they can go a long way for you. All right, as you see here on the board, the 5 fundamentals of sports handicapping. These are my golden rules. Whenever I'm handicapping a game, these are the things I look for. I look for value, percentage play, performance cycles, player availability, and I use a very disciplined money management system. And you can find the Raymond Report each and every day right here at atsstats.com. All right, if you like football and you know the NFL is coming, we have a World Series of Handicapping Pro Football Contest. Season number 11 is underway, and you can follow that each and every day by going to the World Series of Handicapping.com website. The best thing about this contest, it is free. And if it's free, it's for me, and you can sign up today at the World Series of Handicapping.com website. And all you got to do each and every week, make 7 selections, sides or totals, rank those selections 7 units to 1 unit, and the player with the most units at the end of the season will win the Baron Championship ring, courtesy of World Series of Handicapping.com. All right, let's go to the Market Watch, and this is what I call the SBI, the Sports Betting Index. And what we do in this segment is we take a look at what came in so far this year in the CFL. And I'll tell you right off the hop, if you are betting favorites in the CFL on the money line, you are smiling like a butcher's dog because you are making a lot of money. 74.2% of the favorites have come in the last this year in the CFL. And when you compare that to 54.2 on the point spread, tell me why, again, would you be betting the point spread when you can just take those favorites? But, you know, you got to pick your spots betting favorites. In fact, I forgot to show you the my golden rules of sports betting. In fact, when you go to the website, go to Tools, ATS Tutorials, and then once you get there, click on the top 5 sports betting tips. And at the bottom, you will see the 10 commandments of sports betting, which I call my golden rules. And number 1 rule, never bet big money on C-type teams. Those are teams below 500. Never lay point spreads in the spread sports like the NFL, CFL, or college football, or the NBA. I always take the money line, and I just showed you why. Or you take the total, or you take the underdog. I don't bet on doubleheaders in baseball. I follow a very disciplined money management system. I never force a pick when I'm betting on sports. And I never chase. Don't be chasing bad bets or bad days, and learn to live another day. Bet with your wallet, not your heart. Only bet beer and pizza money on C on C-type crime teams. Those are teams below 500. And never bet on a C-type team that just made it to the B club, and that would be a team like Saskatchewan, and until they have proven themselves. And those are some of my golden rules when it comes to sports handicapping. And like I said, in rule number 2, if you scroll right down here, never lay point spreads or never lay points in spread sports. And here's the reason why I don't. 74.2% of the favorites have come in so far in the CFL this season, 25.8 for the underdogs. And when you compare that to the point spread, 54.2 against the number and 45.8 for the underdog, you can see if you're betting the money line, you're doing pretty good, right? In the over-under department, 60% of the games have gone over this year. In fact, the last 2 weeks, 75% of the totals have gone over in the CFL. Maybe that's why my record with the computer picks for the over is doing so well, because everything is going over, and the computer picks have been high this year. Those are the SBI numbers for after week number 10, going into week number 11. And let's take a look at who's who in the zoo in the CFL right now. And you can see from a percentage point of view, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are your best team in the CFL, but they did get upset last week. And when you look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers the last couple of weeks, remember in week number, I believe it was 10 or 9, week 9 against the Montreal Alouettes, Montreal was hosting the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That game was 21-21 in the third quarter, early fourth. And then Winnipeg flexed and they got that win. And you know what? Telling sign. Maybe that was a telling sign, you know, going into that third quarter. Montreal hanging in with the 2-time Grey Cup champions. And then last week they go and you give a good coaching staff like the Danny Machocha and the Alouettes film from the last week to analyze. And not saying that Mike O'Shea is not a great coach. He is. But you give any coaching staff, to be honest, you give any coaching staff 2 weeks to dissect film, and they will have a good game plan. And that's what happened in last week in Winnipeg, right? All right, so Winnipeg 9-1. BC, beautiful comeback win against Calgary. They're 7-1 on the year. Calgary 5-3. Saskatchewan 5-4 on the season. Toronto 4-4. Lost last week at Tim Hortons Field. Montreal 3-6 on the season along with Hamilton. Edmonton and Ottawa carrying the basement at 2-7 for the Elks and 1-7 for the Ottawa Redblacks. And these two teams will face off Friday night in Ottawa at TD Place. And one thing for sure, I will be there along with my wife watching that game at TD Place. All right, let's take a look at the that was a look at the standings, and let's take a look at the offense and scoring machines in the CFL. So we'll go to tools, we'll go to team scoring and rankings. And let's take a look at the Canadian Football League. Which team has been really good on offense and defense so far this year in the CFL? In fact, let me just... All right, so I just had to restart the stats right there because each day we got to restart the stats at a certain time. But on with the show. You can see the BC Lions ranking number 1 in the Canadian Football League in points per game. Now, it's not just offense. You got special teams and defensive points too. So averaging 36.8 points per game are the BC Lions. Calgary at 30.7. You got the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at 26.7. Saskatchewan as well at 26. Montreal 25. Same thing. No, Toronto 22.5. Hamilton at 21.6. and Ottawa at 19.38. And you got the Edmonton Elks rounding off the last place team in offense in scoring at 18.6 per game. And looking at the Elks, they are the last place team on defense, giving up 36 points per game. Montreal at number 8 at 27. Hamilton giving up 26 points per game. Same thing with the Toronto Argonauts. Ottawa sitting in 5th place at 24.3. You got Saskatchewan at 23.8. Same thing with Calgary. BC, you know what? I know BC gets a lot of attention with their offense, but their defense, nothing to sneeze at. 21.8 points against per game. And the number 1 defense in the Canadian Football League is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at 18.2. So the Bombers doing a really good job, and that's why they win Grey Cups, right? Defense wins championships. But like I remember going to a coach's clinic once, and one of the greatest sayings I heard, you throw to score and you run to win. Hey, is that a great philosophy on offense? Throw to score, run to win, and I added defense wins championships. So if you're a football coach out there, maybe that's a good something you throw into the repertoire when you're giving your pep talks to your players. All right, those are the score and offense for week number 11. And the next thing on our agenda is the power ratings from atscalculator.com. In fact, if you go to the website, atscalculator.com, I did the first one here, Edmonton against Ottawa, and what you do is you create the result, and you can see Friday night we got Ottawa winning by 8.47 points, and the total in the game is 44.6. Ottawa is a 4.5 point favorite. The line opened up 4.5. I've seen some 5.5s out there now, and the total's at 48. So according to atscalculator.com, we do like this game to go under the total. And if you look at the power ratings for week number 11, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I'm going to bring this right here. Hopefully you can see it on the on your desktop, but if not, I'm just going to say it anyways. BC Lions, the number 1 team in the power ratings at plus 14. Winnipeg in 2nd place at plus 8. Calgary at plus 7. Then you got Saskatchewan in 4th. Montreal in 5th at minus 1.8. Toronto at minus 2.6. Ottawa in 7th place at minus 5. Hamilton at minus 5.3. And then you got Edmonton at minus 16. And if you want to learn more about the power ratings, or you want to get the ATS calculator, check it out at atscalculator.com. All right, we got some good games on tap for you this week, and we're going to kick it off at TD Place in Ottawa between the Ottawa Red Blacks and the Edmonton Elks. Now, the Red Blacks had a bye last week, and prior to that, they did play Calgary, losing 17-3. Not the brightest game, shining star game for the Ottawa Red Blacks on the season. Nothing really good for Calgary that game, but I'll say one thing: both defense did step up for both Calgary and Ottawa in that game, and Calgary escaped Ottawa with a 17-3 victory. Edmonton losing last week against Saskatchewan at home, 34-23 was the final. Now, when Edmonton travels to Ottawa, they are 5-5 straight up, 4-6 against the number. But the good news is, if you're an Ottawa Red Blacks fan, Ottawa is 7-3 against the number against Edmonton, 2-8 to the under. And when you look at some of the other stats down here, and if you do like to bet on this game, I think the under is where you want to go. And I got a really good stat here on the under in this game between Ottawa and the Edmonton Elks. And you can see right here, anytime you got a team, anytime Edmonton is coming off 2 games that went over the total, 24-8 to the under in their next game. And the last 3 years in the CFL, road teams who are coming off 2 overs in their last game, 13-5 to the under. So things bode well to the under for this weekend if you do like Ottawa and Edmonton. And I thought I had some really good other numbers here pointing towards the under in this game. I think, here it is right here. Yeah, that was it. 8-24 to the under since 1996 for the Edmonton Elks. So if you're going to play this game here this week, and I showed you the history between these two teams, 80% of the last 10 games between Edmonton and Ottawa has gone under the total. Ottawa is just looking for their first home win of the year. I know they got their first win of the year 2 weeks ago in Toronto, but they really need to win their home games. And again, I'll say it, I've been saying this all year. Paul LaPolice, I think if you just focus on being the head coach and not the offense coordinator, I think you'll be doing yourself a big service, because once you're a head coach and you're doing double duty, not too many people can do that. I know Dave Dickinson does it in Calgary, but he has Bo Levi Mitchell as his quarterback, and we don't, you know the situation in Ottawa. But that's the, I think the heat that's in the kitchen right now in Ottawa is Paul LaPolice. Maybe he has to give up the OC and let's maybe you bring in Kari Jones or something like that. But I think doing double duty in the CFL is one of the hardest things to do when it comes to coaching football. All right, there's my little rant there for the CFL week number 11. Let's get on to the next game here between the BC Lions and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Got a good one at Mosaic this weekend. Probably the best game on the board. You got the Lions coming off that big win over Calgary. 41-40 was the score. But, as much as it was a nice win, they still had to come from behind to win, right? And as a coach, and any coach will tell you, we're happy we got the win, but we don't want to be doing that every week. We don't want to be going, playing from behind. I know it took them a while to get going in the second half. BC didn't have a really, the one thing in Canadian Football League or any coaching, all good coaches make great adjustment at halftime. And I don't know what Dave Campbell did at the halftime, but they made some great adjustments. And unfortunately for Calgary, we had Calgary plus 2.5, so we were smiling pretty good there. But the adjustments, Calgary, they didn't make really good adjustments. But BC, you got to give Rick Campbell credit. They made some great adjustments in that game in the second half, and they got that W, right? BC coming in on a 4-game win streak right now. And if you look at their chances of winning this game, is at 56.6% compared to 43.3% for the Green Riders. And looking at Saskatchewan hosting the BC Lions in the last 10 head-to-head meetings at Mosaic, BC is 5-5 straight up, 6-3-1 against the number. But Saskatchewan does have the edge overall in the last 10 head meetings. I don't know if that means anything right now, because going into this game, I don't know if there's a team hotter right now on offense than the BC Lions. Saskatchewan, as much as I love Cody Fajardo as the quarterback, he still needs to improve his deep skills passing the ball, right? If you look at his talent level, his skills, even when he was at Nevada, a great quarterback, rushing the football, escaping the pocket. But in the CFL, you got to be able to be poised in the pocket and deliver the deep ball. And it can't be always 50-50 balls, right? You got to be on point, on target. And that if there's one aspect of Cody Fajardo's game that I like to see him do a little bit better, don't get the happy feet in the pocket. Stay in the pocket. Trust your O-line. But be better at those passes more than 20 yards. And one thing with Saskatchewan, they got a great running game in Jamal Morrow. Now, the big question mark going into this game, can BC stop the run? Can the BC Lions stop the run? That will be the question mark. And I do like the BC Lions this week on the money line. I know the money line is in reach, but again, rule number 2 of the Raymond Report, I don't lay points, but I don't have a lot of sexy numbers here pointing towards the BC Lions when it comes to the point spread. But looking at Saskatchewan, they're pretty good coming off 5 days rest. In fact, since 1996 on 5 days rest, 21-13-1 against the number. And during week 8 of the season, from week 8 to week 12, they are 35-22 against the number. But against division foes last 3 years, 2-8-2. And I did a little research here on the Saskatchewan Roughriders playing at home the last couple of years. In fact, let me go to my database to show you. One thing with Saskatchewan, we all know they got some great fans at Mosaic, and the Saskatchewan fans are Riderville, as they're known. Really good fans, but what really the last couple of years, Saskatchewan at home the last 3 years, a pretty good record. In fact, I did the research this morning, and I'm going to pull it up right now just to show you the last couple of years at Mosaic. Or, Old Taylor Field. Oh, the wrong one there. I don't want the Ottawa Redblacks. I want Saskatchewan last, not this season. Sorry. Let's go last 3 years. Okay. And boom. And you can see right here the record for the 17-6. That's a pretty good record at home the last 3 years. Saskatchewan, but the point spread record not as great. 11-10-2, but 9-13-1 to the under. But that's a good record. 17-6 the last 3 years at home. So if you're going to Mosaic, you're in for a dogfight, and that's what's going to happen this week. But I do like the BC Lions on the money line, and we'll see what will happen right there. And let's go to the next game. You got Hamilton taking on Montreal. Now, obviously, as a handicapper, my number one reaction this week is classic letdown spot for the Alouettes. They're going in as a 2.5-point favorite. 48.5 is the line. And looking at the chances of winning, it is at 56.2% compared to 35.2% for Hamilton. Now, Hamilton coming in with the former CFL quarterback Matt Schultz of the Montreal Alouettes. He's not a former CFL. He's a former Montreal Alouette. And Matt Schultz was the quarterback for Montreal last season. We all know Schultz. The one thing is that he's a dual threat, right? He's very good running the football. And just trying to bring up his stats right here, or his numbers. Matthew Schultz, no, don't have it right here. But yeah, going into this week, the one thing with Hamilton, it was nice to see a little bit of the running game come to fruition last week. Sean Thomas Earleton had a nice run for a touchdown, and it was probably his longest of the year, 23 yards. 20 yards on the season, 20 yards, 20 carries for 126 yards. In the CFL, that's not going to cut it. You got to have a running game. Take a little bit of pressure off that passing game, right? That's the one thing I know people think of the CFL, great passing league. But the thing is, you know what the quarterback's best friend is? A good running game. And that's why when you look at BC, Calgary, and Saskatchewan, they all have good running game. That's why the record is as good, right? Montreal going into the Lions' Den last weekend in Winnipeg, getting the win. That was hey, sometimes you got to be lucky to be good, and took advantage of those missed field goals from Legio. 2017 win. And Montreal, though, don't have a great history against Hamilton in the last 10 head-to-head meetings. In fact, Montreal is 3-7 straight up and against the number. But looking at my playmaker chart going into this week, I do love the fact that Montreal has a veteran quarterback in Trevor Harris. Jeshron Antwi has done a very good job replacing William Stanback, who's injured right now. Hopefully he'll be back by the end of the year. And maybe Eugene Lewis, probably the best receiver right now in the CFL. And that's a pretty good triplet combination there when it comes to my playmaker chart. The only thing that's maybe the Achilles heel, and no pun intended right there, is the kicking game. David Cote, who's maybe if he just have a little bit more luck, Montreal's record would probably be a little bit better right now. All right, going into this game, I do like the Montreal Alouettes. I would really consider them on the money line. I believe the money line is at -160. So give me Montreal this weekend on the money line. And again, not a lot of sexy ATS numbers. In fact, look at this one. Montreal at home coming off a win. 2-8 against the numbers. So you can see not a lot of great numbers. But going to this game, I know Hamilton's got a great defense when it comes to their team. Special teams also. Hey, they got a couple of punt returns last week for touchdowns or kickoff returns, and it was returns for touchdowns. So you know special teams are pretty special in Hamilton. It's the offense that needs to get going, and once that offense gets going, then Hamilton might, if Hamilton can get that offense going, then we can start talking about another Grey Cup appearance, right? But right now, I would lean towards Montreal this weekend. Calgary taking on the Toronto Argonauts. Calgary, again, losing to the BC Lions in really a dramatic fashion that you don't want to lose those type of games too often. But sometimes, you know, again, good adjustments at halftime. They found something in that the Calgary defense that they exploited, and it must have been in the secondary because they threw a lot of. They went to, I think, Nathan Rourke had more yards in the second half than in the fourth quarter than they had in the first three quarters. It was just some crazy number. Anything with numbers with Nathan York right now is just crazy. 59.2% chance of winning here for Calgary compared to 33.3% for the Toronto Argonauts. And when I look at the Argonauts, when they're taking on the Calgary Stampeders, not a good record head-to-head in the last 10. 2-8 straight up, 3-7 against the number. 70% of those games have gone under the total. I do like Calgary again this week. You know, anytime you can give me a good quarterback, a veteran quarterback like Bo Levi Mitchell, and I think Bo Levi Mitchell's on he's on a mission this year to win the Grey Cup. I think he come up a few short the last couple of years. Remember that game against Ottawa in the Grey Cup a couple of years? I think they lost one and beat Ottawa the next, but I got a really good feeling Calgary, and I'll get to that in just a few minutes on the futures. I like Calgary this weekend against Toronto. When I look at this Toronto team right now, word just out that Harris will be out for the season. That's too bad. Andrew Harris, they got him from Winnipeg last year, but shoulder problem. He's going in shoulder surgery, so no Andrew Harris this weekend. McLeod Bethel Thompson, I like this quarterback. You know what? I love his energy. I love his leadership. Unfortunately, he's playing on the team that sometimes can be very inconsistent when it comes to the the leadership role, right? And obviously you got to look at Ryan Dinwiddie. This Toronto team is very emotional, and sometimes they take these unwanted penalties in critical stages of the game. And the Toronto Argonauts, if they can just find more leadership, more control during the games, I think they would win more games. But that's the only problem. Sometimes your worst enemy is yourself, right? And that's what's happening with Toronto sometimes. I think Toronto, they shoot themselves in the foot with really bad penalties during the game. But going into this year, Curly Gittens Jr. having a really good year, in the Ottawa guy right there. So we're really happy for him. Boris Beatty, I have him ranked last in my CFL kicking, and I think right now his consistency on field goals need to be a bit better. But the big question mark right now going into this weekend is the running game of Toronto. Give me Calgary on the money line against the Argos, and those are my selections for this week. So give me the over in the Edmonton-Ottawa game. I'm going to take the BC Lions on the money line, but keep in mind, though, Saskatchewan, always tough at home. Then you know they're going to play them tough. Hamilton against Montreal, give me the money line on the Alouettes, and give me the money line on Calgary against the Toronto Argonauts. Now, I was talking about Grey Cup futures here. Winnipeg, plus 140 to win the Grey Cup this year. Not bad. It's a little low price, but BC, plus 225. I just don't know if they have enough experience and the head coaching experience. I know Rick Campbell won a Grey Cup with Hank, Henry Burris, and the Ottawa Red Blacks. 225 is the line right now. I love Calgary, plus 650. If you can get Calgary at plus 650 to win the Grey Cup, jump all over it. Toronto, plus 800. Saskatchewan, plus 900. Montreal at plus 1300. You know, if Montreal can win the East and get to the Grey Cup, that's a pretty good hedging opportunity number right there at plus 1300. Hamilton, plus 1300. Ottawa, plus 4500. And then you got Edmonton at plus 10,000. Those are your numbers for futures Grey Cup ticket. All right, there you have it. That is the CFL Report, week number 11. My name is Ron Raymond, a 5-time sports handicapping champion. Love the CFL. Been doing this since 1996. And, yeah, some great memories growing up being a CFL fan. And I talk about that every week here on the Ron Raymond CFL Report. And hopefully you guys will tune in each and every week. And again, follow us on our podcast everywhere you download your podcast. Or if you want to see the visual effects of the screen and all the numbers that I'm showing you guys on the board, you can get it here on our YouTube channel. In the meantime, shop for value, play those percentages. I'll see you back next week with another Raymond Report. Cheers.